Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Tyler. Welcome back to another crazy customer story time because it never ends. It never does. It never ends. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Please help. Anyways, today I have obviously in the title, that's gonna be later on, probably the second story. That was like crazy. But anyways, the first story I'm gonna give you is a goldfish lady. Because not a lot of people know about goldfish. I'm gonna give you some basic information. What it says on our tag for this specific goldfish, if you work at a pet store, at this pet store specifically, you know the really cheap goldfish. We have 16-cent ones and we have 32-cent ones. They wanted the 32-cent ones. They are bred to be feeder fish. They are bred to be fed to turtles or snakes or other things, lizards, whatever. They're not usually kept as pets unless you have like a pond because they get a foot long. And also on our tag, it has like basic information. This is the bare minimum that they need to survive. It says a 30-gallon tank. That's for one adult goldfish. That's the bare minimum. Okay, so when you're reading those tags, don't say, oh, all I need is a 30-gallon and I can get like a couple. No, that's not how it works. Like the people that make those signs, they're not being honest with you. That's the bare minimum that you can do for these fish to even survive. But anyways, that's like the basic information of that kind of goldfish. They're called comet goldfish. They get a foot long. They get huge. They're not easy to take care of. So just don't get them. Maybe don't do that. But anyways, this lady, she's here with like somebody else and then her child, I guess. I don't know. The child's probably like 4 or 5 years old. Like I don't know. So a young child that's not gonna take care of a fish. She's like, oh, I want a goldfish. And I'm like, okay, which one were you looking at? Because we have like the expensive goldfish that range from like $3 to like $30. And those like I would not be able to sell in like a small tank. But the feeder fish, the 16-cent ones, the 32-cent ones, I can't tell somebody no. Like, it's part of my job. Like, it literally, like, I can't deny that, and it's really depressing. But anyways, I'm like, okay, what size tank do y'all have? After she showed me which one she wanted, she was like, oh, I have like a little bowl. And I'm like, okay, just so you know, they do get about like a foot long. I like showed her the size, like with my hands, they get about this big. So they won't be able to live in a bowl for very long. They need a heater. I mean, not a heater, a filter. They need a filter. You can't really do that in a bowl. And they won't be able to live in a bowl. Like, they can't live in a bowl. No fish live in a bowl without a filter. Just my opinion. I don't know. It might be controversial. I don't know. These people park next to me and they're just chilling in their car in a park. It's like, why are you doing the same thing as me? I don't like it. Anyways, I'm like, oh, they can't live very long in that bowl. And she's like, oh, it's fine. And then she's like, is this food good for them? And she holds up like saltwater food. First of all, we don't even have saltwater fish, but we, for some reason, sell like saltwater stuff, and nobody really knows what they're doing with that stuff, including me. I don't know anything about saltwater. But she's like, is this food good for them? And I'm like, no, this is actually for saltwater fish, and goldfish are freshwater. So the goldfish are gonna be eating goldfish food. We have that around the corner. She's like, can you show me? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I swear nobody can read. This says saltwater fish food on the thing. There's a Nemo on it. There's a Nemo. At least like look at the picture and be like, yeah, this is a Nemo. This isn't a goldfish. This is a Nemo. I'm sorry. I know I'm saying Nemo like I'm a child. It's because these people act like children. Anyways, I show her the goldfish food, and then she's like talking. She's like, oh, this is just for my kid, just for like a little bit. I want to see how he does. And I'm like, okay, well, just so you know, like, if you're just seeing how things go, these fish are going to die in the bowl. Like, they can't live in the bowl. they can't live in the bowl. They're not gonna live in the bowl. And she's like, oh, well, we actually had them before and they lasted about 2 weeks. That was a really long time. And I'm like, yeah, they can actually live about 30 years if they're taken care of properly. And she's like, yeah, but they lived pretty long last time I had them. And I was like, okay. But in my head, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I just said they can live 30 years, and you're like, they live 2 weeks. And I'm like, such a good fish mom. Like, no, the fuck you're not. And then she goes on, and she's like, oh, it's just for him to, like, look at and entertain him. And I'm like, okay. So you're getting a fish as, like, a decoration, basically? I said that. And I know that can come off as, like, bitchy, because that is kind of mean. Also, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. But we're gonna ignore that. But I asked that. I'm like, so you're getting a live animal as a decoration? And she's like, yeah. And I was shocked. First of all, I said that, and then I realized that came out really mean, and I was like, oh shoot, I hope she doesn't, like, yell at me. I was like, oh god, I shouldn't have said that. It's, like, kind of rude. It's honest, but, like, I work to sell fish, you know? Like, gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And by that, I mean I have to sell fish, and I can't deny it because our company doesn't want us to deny it, because whatever. But I said that, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, bro, you literally just admitted to me that you're getting a fish as a decoration. And I'm like, okay, well, have you tried, like, a TV show or, like, some toys for him? And she's like, yeah, but he likes the fish. And I'm like, okay. Okay. And then she goes on like a story about how she had fish for her other daughter when she was a kid. And again, she was like, they lasted like 2 weeks. It was like crazy. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And at this point, I'm like over it. I'm like, she literally just admitted to me that she's buying a living animal as a decoration. And then again, she says something about like, oh, we're just gonna see how he does. And I'm like, again, they aren't gonna live very long. They're in a bowl. They can't live in a bowl. And she's like, it doesn't really matter. We'll come and get new ones until he gets bored of them. She said that to me. Like, is that not... Maybe some people don't care about fish or think about them as, like, living animals. I don't eat fish, so... I don't know. I might be biased. But, like, if you're buying a fish as a pet and I'm telling you it's going to die, you would think, like, oh, maybe I won't do that. Maybe I won't do that. And I'm, like, literally telling you, like, this is a living animal. You would think, like, maybe the other person would be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of wrong to put a living animal in a bowl where it's gonna die in 2 weeks. But no, she was all set, bro. She was like, yeah, whatever, it's probably gonna die in 2 weeks. We'll just get more. And I said again, okay, well, they are living animals. And she was like, yeah. Like, she didn't give a shit. She didn't care. She didn't care at all. So then I was like, okay, which ones do you want? And she's like, those. And she points at the bigger 32-cent ones. She's like, I want 4. And I'm like, man, you're putting 4 this big goldfish in a bowl. Bro, no, what is wrong with you? Are you okay in the head? I don't know. I don't think so. Apparently not. But that was that story I ended up saying on the radio, because just so you know, we talk about y'all. We talk about customers on the radio. We talk about random stuff. It does depend on the manager, but like, we like to have fun. We're, you know, we go to work and it's like, yeah, we're coworkers, but I'm close with these people. I appreciate these people. I'm gonna talk to them about crazy customers. So anyways, I was basically saying that on the radio, and they were like, wow. So that was the thing. Anyways, let's get into the big story time, which I don't really know. The thing is, this one's gonna be kind of short because I don't really understand what happened. I was like recovering cat food. It was pretty late. We closed at 9, and it was probably like 8:10, and they showed up. I think they called earlier and they were like, do y'all have any hamsters or something? Anyways, they go to my manager because he was the closest to like the hamsters, and they're like, hey, I want to get a hamster. And then he calls me on the radio and he's like, hey, there's somebody that wants a hamster. So I go over there and I'm like, hey, can I help you guys? Y'all need help with a hamster? And they're like, yeah, we want to get this one. And I'm like, okay, do y'all have like a cage or a tank or a bin set up? I don't know why my voice is doing that. Hold on. So I asked them like what the hamster would be living in. Like I literally said what I just said, like, do you have a bin or a tank or a cage? I asked that to everybody. Just, if you don't know, hamsters shouldn't be in a cage. If you don't believe me, look it up. I don't know. But I do ask that because that's my job. Like if I'm selling an animal, I have to know where it's going. If I didn't ask like basic questions, then I wouldn't be doing my job. That doesn't mean I can deny people. Let's say if they did have a cage or like a small cage, like I'm not really allowed to deny people an animal, but I have to ask those questions. It's literally why I work there. Like if I sell an animal, I need to know where it's going. So I asked that and he was like, yeah, we have that. And I'm like, okay, can you like show me what you got? And he's like, what do you mean I don't have it with me right now? And it was this guy and his daughter. She was probably like 13, I don't know. She was really nice, by the way. She actually like went out of her way to like apologize to me. She was like, I'm so sorry. She was really nice. But he was like, I don't have it with me. And I'm like, okay, I'm aware of that. I didn't say that, but I'm like, bro, I'm looking at you right now. You don't have a cage, you don't have anything. I can see you don't have it with you. Hello? They're finally leaving. Oh my god. That was so awkward. She was like on her phone, like kind of looking at me. It's kind of weird. As I was saying, now I can be more comfortable in my space. He was like, I don't have it, and I'm like, okay, can you like maybe show me from what we have? If you have a cage, they're gonna be the next style over. Or if you have like a bin or a tank, you could maybe like show me with your hands what size it is. Like, hello. And keep in mind, my manager was like right over there because he was doing something. But I was like, okay, again, can you like show me or like give me a size? And he was like, we have it all. And I'm like, okay. And the daughter was like, we have a 20-gallon tank, which by the way is too small for a hamster. But I was like, okay. I was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I can tell he's mad at me. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna give him a second. I'm gonna go grab the paperwork in a box, and I will return. And then as I go like down the aisle, and I'm like pretty much about to turn away, I was probably like 10 feet away from him. He was like, I've never had this happen before. And I was like, oh my god. And then on the radio, because as I said, we talk shit about y'all. Not shit, but we talk about like what's going on in the store, because I don't know, we're like very understaffed. So if we think we're gonna have a problem, or if there's like something funny, we'll say it, because there's only like 2 other people working in this whole store. So it's like, maybe I'll say something funny and it'll brighten somebody's day. Or maybe I can tell somebody, hey, there's probably going to be an issue with this person. So I'm like, I just asked somebody on the radio, I just asked somebody like what they have for their hamster, and he said he's never been asked that before, and he's kind of upset at me. And as I go and I walk over there, I come back to that aisle maybe like 40 seconds later, maybe a minute, because I had to like set up the box. I see them talking to the manager that was right there, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like standing at the cages, like waiting for them to come back, because I can hear him. He's like, I've never been asked this before. I've never had this issue before. I asked 1 question. I asked 2 questions. Like, he was very confused. Anyways, he was like yelling at my manager about me, blah blah blah. And then they finally come back. I'm like, could you fill this out for me? I'm like, please fill out the paperwork and leave. And then he's like talking to me. He's like, you should not have asked me that. He was like, I've had 5 hamsters before. You should have come to me and said, I'm sorry nobody asked you that before, but it's just something I have to do. Like, apparently I should have told him that I'm sorry nobody's asked him that before. Which I don't understand. Bro, is there school? There's 2 fucking school buses. What? It's freaking like August 9th. Is there school? What? What the hell? I don't know. But anyways. Apparently I should have apologized to him for asking, because he's never been asked that before. And he was like telling my manager about that, but then they came to me, they were filling out the paperwork, and then he goes back to my manager with the daughter, and I'm like, okay, you filled out the paperwork, but I don't know what hamster you want. So then I try and grab the daughter, because she's over there talking with my manager to my manager with her dad. Sorry, my brain's breaking. And I'm like, can you show me which one you wanted? So I like grab her, and it's just me and her, and I'm like, okay, there's 2 in here. I know you said you wanted one of these. Can you just show me which one you wanted? And she's like, yeah, that one. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay, it happens all the time. Like, this girl was so embarrassed. I feel so bad for her. Anyways, I got her hamster, and she was like, oh, they have red eyes. And at this point the guy comes back and he's like talking, and I'm like, yeah, they have red eyes, but if you want I can go like look and see if we have any others without red eyes, because I know people don't want that. I don't love red eyes. They kind of spook me out. But anyways, I'm like, we can switch it out. And he's like, no, we just want to get out of here. Like, just get the hamster so we can leave. I'm like, okay. So I grab him the hamster, I put it in the box, and then I'm like, okay, y'all are ready to go. I got the paperwork, here you go. I'm gonna put the hamster up on register 1, like I always do. And he's like going off again. He's like, I really don't appreciate that. I feel like you like came at me with an attitude. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry about that. And then he was like, I don't know if you only do this to Latino or Black customers. And I was like, I asked you what? I asked you what the hamster would be living in. What? But then he said that to my manager after he was like ranting at me for probably like 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry about that. And like my retail vibes, because you can't be a person with emotions when you work retail. You can't, because you'll get fired so fast. So I'm like, okay. And also, I'm not gonna argue with somebody that called me racist because I asked them what their hamster is living in. Like, I'm a full-grown adult. I'm not gonna argue with you. But then he goes back to my manager and he says the same thing. He's like, I know. My manager's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that, but like, she did nothing wrong. And he was like, I know you're the manager and you have to be like, I'm sorry, even though it wasn't you. I'm aware it wasn't you. So he's like, it's all me, bro. It's all me, because I asked you about this hamster. And my manager's backing me up because like, I did my job, bro. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. That's my job. And he tells him that. And then the dad, I should have come up with a name for him, but I don't. Bob. I don't know. I'm not even gonna remember that, but whatever. Bob is like, I don't know if she only does this to like Black customers or Latino customers. And I'm like, why are you going on about this, my dude? Like, why are you making this a race thing? I don't understand. Listen, I don't get it. I don't get it. But we're both, me and my manager, are like, that was so out of nowhere. Like, there's no, how does that make sense? I don't know. But yeah, he was going off. He was very upset that I asked him what his hamster would be living in. Blah, blah, blah. Very upset man. So, me. And then I'm like, okay, that's it. I like walk away, and then I talk to my manager, and my manager's like, yeah, that was insane, bro. He didn't say that. Sorry, I don't know why. I'm like so dramatic. But he was like, yeah, that was crazy. I don't understand what was going on in his head, because I don't understand. My issue is, like, why do you think that I have bad intentions asking, like, what the hamster is going to be living in? I understand, like, if you didn't have anybody ask you that before, like, it's kind of weird. Apparently he had 5 hamsters before, which I don't, did you have 5 hamsters die? That's a lot of hamsters that you've had die, I'm assuming. But that's a lot. I understand if you're like kind of weirded out if I ask you that, but why do you think that I would have bad intentions asking that? Like, I'm doing my job, bro. Like, how is me asking that like a bad thing? I don't understand. And then how does that become like a race thing? I don't know. It's obviously not a race thing. He was just trying to say shit, but like, I don't understand people. They will, I swear, retail customers are the worst. They will get mad at everything. It's like you ask them about a fish tank. They're like, why would you ask me that? I've been doing this since longer than you've been alive. It's like, I'm doing my job. I don't understand why you think that I have bad intentions asking. I don't know. I've like never really understood like that aspect of it. Like, I'm literally doing my job. I'm sorry. I'm doing my job. But that was that story. Honestly, oh, okay, actually, hold on. It's not over. So remember when me and my manager were like talking about that? Whatever. Our cashier on the radio, she's like, hey, that hamster guy, he actually wants to trade in for another one that doesn't have red eyes. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, I asked them if they wanted one without red eyes. And he was like, no, let's get out of here. So anyways, I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, there aren't any without red eyes. Like, I just checked. And we don't even have any that don't have red eyes. But then my manager's like, okay, I'll go deal with that, because he doesn't want me, I'm assuming he didn't want me to like deal with that again, because this man was going off on me. Like, he was just talking and talking and talking. Like, he wouldn't let me speak at all, which probably was a good thing, because I don't know, I might have made him more mad by speaking. I don't know. Men don't like to let me speak because I speak a lot. I talk too much. Anyways, I'm gonna go. That was end of my story. I don't know what hamster they got because I didn't deal with it, but they left with a hamster. I don't know if it was the one I gave them with red eyes or if they got a totally different hamster. I don't know. Because we didn't have the type of hamster that they wanted. They wanted a winter white without red eyes, but we didn't have any. So they might have gotten a different type of hamster. I don't know. But I hope he doesn't come back. I don't know. I do have another crazy customer story time, but this video is too long, and also I have to go to work because I have a job. This guy wrote a whole freaking review about me, and it's like all lies. But I don't know if I want to speak about that because I don't know. But it was a thing. But also, I have many other story times. I need to do like a life update. I don't know. I have so much crap to film. Anyways, I'll see y'all next week, unless I die or something. Bye.